Welcome back to Life with Paul M, part two, talking about mental health. And I've got a special guest, my beautiful Daisy, our doggy, is staying with me for a few days. So she's come to say hello. Let's give her a little treat. Go on, Daisy. Have fun. So, mental health. Quick recap of part one. Mental health affects all of us, whether we acknowledge it, whether we run away from it, or whether we embrace it and work through it. It helps us decide, can we take the whole wide world on? Is life a breeze? Or is the whole weight of the world on our shoulders and we've got no motivation to do anything? Often life is just the same from one day to the next, but the feeling is completely different. In part one, I touched on that mental health didn't come my way as a challenge in my 20s. I was incredibly blessed and thankful, but it caught up with me in my 30s. And through my 30s to 40s, anxiety, depression, antidepressants, insomnia, mental burnout, on an ECG machine because I was pushing myself too much, parents passing away, blah, blah, blah. Lots of lovely challenges along the way. But in this episode, I want to talk about now the tools I've picked up, often the difficult way, and it's taken me a long time to piece them together. So what I want to try and do is wrap them up and hand them over, and you'll probably be aware of everything that I'm going to say, or most things I'm going to say, but sometimes it's just that clarity of, yeah, you know what, let's try that. And what I'll say is as well is, when you've been through mental health ups and downs and you're brave enough to acknowledge that as well, is you develop a lot of empathy. You want to help other people. So if there is anybody out there that you think could take any benefit from my channel or this particular episode, please share it with them. I'd really appreciate that. And any likes or comments would really help grow the channel, because YouTube sees who's liking your content and then they try and find similar minded people to push you out to. So let's start off then with the first thing is the overthinking mind. I believe the overthinking mind leads to anxiety. What is anxiety? I think anxiety is worried about the future that's not yet happened and still a little bit stuck in the past. What about the present? Because I've got a few things going on at the minute, but rather than in the old days, I'd be 24/7 trying to find a fix, thinking about it, keeping me awake at night. What I've decided to do this time round over the last couple of months is kind of stick tight, is maybe you pray, you have faith, you have belief, you just let it be. You let life sometimes play out. So you'll have the same result, but a completely different journey. So how do you get on top of the overthinking mind? I call my overthinking mind Ernie. Yeah, Ernie, believe it or not. So nowadays, when there's negative thoughts or negative energy coming my way, I'll be like, okay, thanks, Ernie. I've got this. I'm safe. I'm great. I can look after this. Or I pretend it's like a radio channel. You can just turn it down. Turn it down. Don't fight it. Acknowledge it. Embrace it. Make peace of it. And then, yeah, then your soul or the positive part of your mind can then kick in and give you that energy and that bit of mojo and that oomph to get on with things. So how do you get on top of the overthinking mind is, like I say, is acknowledge it, but is just think about, what can I do right now to change an outcome that's going to happen in a few minutes, a few hours, a few days, months, years, or maybe never actually will come to a point where you had to find an outcome. So it's almost making peace with, don't try and control the uncontrollables. I think only a fool would do that, and I've been a fool for many years. So that's how I think we get on top of the overthinking mind. The next thing for me has been a huge staple of my life over the last few years is gratitude. People talk about gratitude, all these buzzwords. Gratitude is just being thankful. It's being thankful for the small things. You know, I remember that time when the hospital rang me up to let me know my dad's cancer tests from his results from his test, and they said, "Hi, Mr. McCabe, just to let you know, unfortunately, your dad's got terminal cancer. He's not going to get better." I'm like, "Come on, there must be some way that 1% chance. And my life just changed. Time stood still. And all of a sudden, if anybody's been through a bad moment in life where they've received some bad news about themselves or somebody that's important to them, all of a sudden, all of those things that were so important and keeping us awake at night and really blah, 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 they don't matter anymore. Has anybody else ever been through that moment? But my point is, why do we have to go through those moments to then question our priorities on life and what we think about it? So again, it comes down to gratitude. I wake up in the morning now, and when I go to sleep, I wake up in the morning, and the biggest thing I'll say thank you for is thank you for another day, and thank you that I can say thank you. Because not everybody wakes up to say thank you. Fast forward 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years from now, you, I, other people won't get the chance to say thank you. We'll be gone. So why do we have to get towards the end of something to appreciate where we are right now? So gratitude is key. Perspective. What is perspective? Well, perspective is I'm looking at that picture from here, but if I go here or go here, I see that picture slightly different. So it's just looking at things differently. Taps into gratitude, appreciation. You know, is the glass half full or is the glass half empty? It's the same glass, but how do you look at something? You know, yes, things can always be better in life. Well, let me tell you, nearly every time they can be a lot worse, and sometimes our worst day would be somebody else's best day that they could only dream of. You know, and I know these are all words that people pay lip service on social media and YouTube and TV and all that stuff, but it's true. And if you can channel this into your head and my head as part of mindset, you know, I've got episodes on mindset and gratitude. It's about training your mind. Your brain is a supercomputer that tells you how you are feeling. How do you see the outside world? Are you a victim or are you someone that's marching forwards? Are you trying to help other people or are you stuck by your own ego, so self-centered that the world's about you? You know, we're all going to think about ourselves. That's normal, you know, but it's mindset. So for me, mindset, perspective, gratitude is absolutely key. How you see the world. What do your eyes see? If you're looking for negatives, guess what? You'll see them. If you zoom in on stuff, you know, me and my ex-wife see the world differently. And I say, of course we see the world differently because we're not together anymore. If we saw everything the same, we'd still be together. Human beings, they're all individuals. And, you know, I say to my ex-wife, if you want to zoom in on something, if I look at this pen looks great. If I get a magnifying glass and I look at this pen even closer, I see some scratches and marks on it. If I get a telescope and look at this pen looks old and knackered and it won't do a job. But guess what? There's 3 different ways how you can see it. So perspective and empathy of how you see things is key. Moving on, being active, getting outdoors. And, you know, there'll be lots of people out there who are not interested in the gym. They're not interested in running. They're not interested in yoga. You know, for whatever reason, that's their choice. They've never been sporty since they were dragged around, you know, the schoolyard on sports day. You don't have to be an athlete. You don't have to be into the gym. You don't need to have any muscles, anything to be active. Active is going for a walk around the block. Kicks into gratitude. Because if you're physically able to go around the block, you should be thankful for it, shouldn't you? So active is walking the dog, it's going for a walk, it's even just standing in your garden for a minute in the morning just to breathe and reset. So being active for me is massive. Music really helps me with mental health. Music gives me energy. You know, my dad used to love music. He'd say laughter and music is medicine from life. And for me, if I wake up in the morning, you know, sometimes that computer kicks in and next thing you know, you've lost your motivation. You can't be bothered. A million things are kicking in. So it's always good, I think, get out of bed as quick as you can. Don't get straight into your phone. I know it's really, really hard not to. But put some music on. And guess what? All of a sudden that music will recharge you to then go take the world on a little bit more. Food, nutrition. Yeah, I've always gone to the gym, so I've always had an eye on protein. You know, you do the hard work in the gym, take the protein, you'll get some muscles back on the back end of it. It was only about 18 months ago that I started to understand after listening to some podcasts that actually what you eat, you know, there's a saying, you are what you eat, blah, blah, blah. And it's true. It's not just physically you are what you eat, mentally. All this stuff about gut health and kefir and whatever else it's called. Um, you've got so many receptors in your belly that connect straight to your mental health. So what you put in there is vital, but also the things like eating whole foods. I didn't even know what a whole food was 18 months ago. But it's basically eating things that aren't processed. So if you pick up something from the supermarket and you look at the, you know, the what's in it, the ingredients, and you've got a list of 30 things. How have you got 30 things in something that's just one thing or two things together? You've got so much preservatives, things to make the colour look nice, things so they can be fresh for longer, things so the colour, jumps out a little bit more. All great, but at what price? What garbage are they putting in things? And again, your food massively affects your mental health. So for me, I want everything on my favour, on my mental health challenge and growth through life. So if there's something that can help me, I'd be pretty daft not to go with it. So nutrition and food is massive. I think I mentioned I've been on antidepressants in the past, and in fact I was tempted to try them in my late 20s or early 30s, but there's a bit of a stigma there now. I didn't want to go on them. Anyway, I decided that maybe it was late 30s, early 40s, that you want a different result in life, you've got to be open to trying different formulas. So I went on some antidepressants. Did they help? Hard to say. I'm not against medication. I'd rather not medication, but I believe there can be a place for it. Came off it, got diagnosed on ADHD, which answered a lot of things from my life. If in doubt, get tested for it because it gives you so much clarity and awareness. Went on ADHD medication for a bit, came off it. Again, mixed results. I've tried things like mushroom, microdosing. I'm not a doctor, so do your research on everything. But plant medicines have been a huge part of my life in the last 3 years. I stumbled down this spiritual journey. What is spirituality? Well, it's connected into mindfulness, but it's also connected into there's more to this world than just us. There's so many things that can be coincidences, and they are coincidences at times, but there's so many things that aren't coincidences. So this spiritual journey, it's led me to Peru, where I nearly felt like I'd nearly died in the jungle on an ayahuasca ceremony. But it was me facing my biggest fears of the old me on psychedelic deep inward journey. And the battle, let me tell you, was brutal. But the healing, the growth, the clarity that came from it has just opened up my eyes and opened up my soul to see the world in a very different place. So for me, spirituality, plant medicines have played a huge part. I went to America last summer and I drove the famous Route 66. I remember getting out on the road in the middle of nowhere in Arizona and you could see 10, 50 miles in either direction. There's no cars coming. And I just lie down on the road. One of the moments where time just stood still and it gave me a completely different perspective on life because life happens, how we react to it, that's our choice. But the tools we put together is going to help us make different choices. You know, I started at this episode talking a little bit about belief and faith. It doesn't matter whether you've got religious beliefs and faith, you believe in yourself, the universe, a higher power, God, it doesn't matter. But I believe having some faith and belief really does help you get through difficult moments in life, that life will turn, that there will be better days. Because I think probably 90% of everything that we think about and worry about never happens. And at that final 10%, 90% of that, when it does happen, turns out fine. So maybe 10% of everything that we ever worry about might actually happen. So we spend 90% of our lives worrying and thinking and trying to control things that we can't control. That's probably never going to happen, to then have to find a way to work through it. So that's belief and faith. Where else? Where else? Where else? The self development work for me has been huge. A lot of people think about self development as weakness, as wishy washy, as hippified, and so forth. But that's just ignorance, really, and people being led by their ego, thinking that they know it all. None of us know it all. But with self development, and that might be podcasts, books, audio books, facing your fears. Got an episode on courage. I faced my biggest fear. Lost my mum and my dad, and I was blessed that I was holding both of their hands when they took their final breath. But I faced my fears when my dad was having a life-saving procedure, and my legs were shaking. I was holding my dad's hand, looking him in the eyes, and let me tell you, he made it through. Then he passed away a little while longer with his, little while later with his little doggy Rosie on his knee in the hospital. But at my dad's, before my dad's funeral, I went to see him in a chapel of rest. Not for everybody, and I'm not judging that. But I was there, putting the coffin lid on, turning the final screws. It sounds absolutely gruesome and absolutely like, what? How can you do that? But it was my duty to be blessed by such beautiful parents to do my final bit of service to them. But what I did was I was leaning into my darkest fears that can often follow us around for a whole of our lives. I looked through them and it became a strength. There's certain things that's happened to all of us in our younger years or our older years. We don't need to pay the price, you know, for the rest of our lives if we've been wronged too. We can release it. We can take the power back from that person that's done something bad to us and say, nah, not carrying it anymore. That's on you, and karma will catch up with you anyway. So there's loads of different ways to work on our mental health. Anything else I've not covered? Anything else? I think that's probably it. If there is someone that can benefit, share this with them. I've got a book that I'm working on, which is going to be basically about riding, how to best ride a roller coaster of life, and it's going to be a lot of life tools that I've learned, like I say, the hard way, the expensive way, wrap them up and give people some extra love, hope, empathy, belief, positivity. Mental health doesn't have to be a heavy, depressing subject. For me, mental health is about acknowledging that there's challenges, that there's difficulties, but it's about being brave enough to say, I owe it to myself to feel a happier, better, more fulfilled life. And it's my duty as a human being to have empathy for others and support other people less fortunate than ourselves. You might be feeling terrible, but let me tell you, there'll be people out there that feel even worse than you. So you're in a position where you can actually help them and offer them hope. And if you share your story of where you are or where you've been and you've still got a spin of positivity, then you can help these people immeasurably. I've had so many good people, often strangers or new people that I've met over the last 2-3 years or even a bit longer than that, that have helped me massively. Let's be honest, your friends, your nearest and dearest that you've known for years and decades, most of them don't give a monkeys. They're not bothered. I'll have people that ring me up, hey, how are you? And by the time they've actually asked the question, hey, how are you? They're switched off. They don't give a monkeys. So me, it's about people and energy. I now could use the word ruthless, but I'm going to use the word smart. I'm smart with my energy and the time, who I'm giving it to, why I'm going to give it. And that's why for me, why mental health has become such a passionate cause and duty for me, because I know what it feels like on a daily basis. Great days, not so great days. And I want to be able to create this community on this channel of like-minded, decent, good people with good souls who park their egos at the door and just look at life through nice, kind eyes. So this has been another really long episode. I'm sorry it's gone on so much. Hopefully you've got something from it. Please, if you've enjoyed anything on it, share in the comments what resonates with you. It will really help me with YouTube, with any likes, with any shares, with any comments, because then YouTube will be like, okay, this episode works for that person. Let's go and find more of those similar people to put my stuff out. And hopefully someone will listen to my episode on a day when they needed a little bit of positivity, just like the universe has brought me to many episodes, books, people, messengers on that given moment that's made a huge difference in my life. So from me, I will be learning Estella's violin over a little bit of time from Peru, and from Daisy in the background. I think I need to lie down after this. ADHD's really kicked in, hasn't it? It's all over the show. So much love, so much gratitude. The world is such a beautiful place when you part your ego, you open yourself up, you acknowledge that you don't know it all, you have empathy, and you build a world and a community with good people. So thank you to all of you guys. Bye from Daisy, bye from me. Namaste. Have a great day.